Hello. Well, it's the 19th of January and it's not a particularly pleasant day. It's just been raining and it's probably going to rain again. You might think it's not the best day to be gardening. Well, it's a good day to be sorting out the greenhouses. They both need washing down. It's a very wet job, so might as well do it when it's raining. I'll just show you what I've got. Got a couple of greenhouses here. This was the little one I started with about 8 years ago. I got it second hand on Facebook. Paid £50 for it, which wasn't too bad, and it started over there in the garden, and I rapidly found out that that wasn't the brightest of places to put it. Brightest as in didn't get enough sunshine. Always site your greenhouses in the sunniest place possible, so this part of the garden gets more sun. So I moved it over here a few years ago, and I put it on this little brick base, which enables me to have soil beds in the greenhouse. It's a lot cheaper than messing around with pots and compost. This one also is on a raised bed like that. I'll do a separate video on the raised bed because that's quite an interesting thing to do. This one's got a slightly more interesting history. I got it for free. It's quite a big one. It's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 foot long, by 8 feet wide. And people tend to end up with larger greenhouses. Either someone's into gardening and they get too old to do it, or they move house and they inherit a greenhouse in the new house. And the big ones can be a bit of a liability for a lot of people. And the chap that I got it from said he gave it away for free. And he said, not only have I got a devil of a job dismantling it, taking it to the dump, but I'd rather see it used, but I can't find anyone that wants it. I said, well, I'll take it, I'll take it. So we got this one. It took a lot of dismantling, as you can imagine, a lot of moving and a lot of reassembling, but it's a fantastic greenhouse, and it's probably about 30 years old, but with careful maintenance it'll last another 30 years. It's had a bit of a battering in the storms. This one was all right, but this one just we had a wind came in, nasty wind a couple of weeks ago. It's just broken a glass window at the top there, so I've got to sort that out. I just remove these bits of glass and I'm going to give everything a wash, and I'll repair that as another job. If you've got one of these pressure washers, or if you can beg, borrow or steal one, it really does give you an advantage to when cleaning the greenhouse. It enables you to get in all the little corners and crevices and really give everything a good scouring. I definitely recommend them. If you don't panic. You can do it all with a scrubbing brush and a mop. It just takes a little longer. But let me have a play. For those of us without pressure washers, there's always the old-fashioned way. Hot water, wash up liquid. Not actually much slower than doing it with a power machine. I like the pressure washer because you can squirt it in sort of into the corners and things like that. Although I don't think it does quite as good a job on the glass itself. I sometimes end up going over it anyway afterwards with the brush here. I think you can also spot stuff that you might not see quite so easily in the corners and that with the enthusiasm of the machine. It tends to obscure everything. So there we go. One bit that's worth concentrating on is the bit where the panes of glass overlap. I use one of these. It's just a plant tag. Just work it in between the glass panes. Just slide it along. Just gets the green stuff out. You can get in any corners and just sort of fetch stuff out like that. Anyway. Works quite well. When you're washing your greenhouse like this, you're doing it for two main reasons. One is to get rid of all the bugs, all the spores and things like that that might have accumulated in the course of the growing season, and they tend to lurk in the crevices and all the places you can't see. So just starting off with a sterile environment as you can make. The second reason is simply that the green mould, you can see it accumulates on both sides of the glass over the course of the growing season. That stops sunlight getting in, and particularly in the beginning of the season when you're just starting out, it's very important to get as much light into your greenhouse as possible. So I also think it's just nice to have things clean and sparkly when you're beginning your season. It's a feel-good factor as well. The other greenhouse job that I've got to do, and it often does come up this time of year, is we had a bit of storm damage. So just lost a pane of glass in the opening window there, and might as well get on and fix that one. Into the workshop, into the dry. One of the worst windows to break this, it's not standard size, so we'll have to cut some glass. It's an old designer greenhouse this. The glass is actually puttied in as well as clipped. So. There we go. Right, 2 foot wide, which is standard width. 18 inches. Let's go see what we can find. Well, I've been a bit lucky with my glass. I managed to find a sheet in my stock of old bits of glass which is exactly the right size to fit in here, so that does save me cutting any. I hate cutting old glass. It gets very brittle and you tend to end up with a lot of broken glass. So happy to avoid that. This just pops in here. That's a replacement. And these are the clips that held it in. The clips tend to come in slightly different shapes and sizes depending on the make and model of greenhouse that you've got. They generally, if you're buying some replacements, they generally come in 2 types. There's little springy ones that hold the glass in to the sides of the greenhouse, and little bent pieces of metal that hold adjacent pieces of glass together when they're mounted vertically. The spring clips, it's just a matter of sizing them to be whatever's appropriate for your greenhouse. And you usually have some old ones if you're replacing them to size them by. These ones are a little bit more complicated. If you can't find the size you need, I often keep a little stock of strips of aluminium, because you can bend these, a piece of metal like that, just into the right shape. Old roofer's trick, just to mount the glass the way you want it and the shape you want it. So it's worth having a few of those around. Anyway, this one would just pop back in with its old spring clips. If you're buying these fittings, get the stainless steel ones if you offer them. Obviously, they don't go rusty. And there we go. The job's a good one. There we go. So that's good to go. Another job that's good to do just whilst we're here on windows is anything that's a moving mechanism like a window latch. Give it a squirt. It can seize up over the course of the winter, and the aluminium or the alloy that's used on these fittings can get very brittle, so it won't take much strain. Give them a squirt of oil every year and it will just preserve the life of the greenhouse. Yeah, just like that. Another job that's worth looking at this stage is you sometimes get a little bit of movement on the glass. I know in this one in particular, the panes of glass seem to suffer from slippage. See this pane here it's just lost contact with the edges and slipped down a little bit. We don't want to get like that, particularly this time of year, so I'm just going to do a little bit of maintenance here, take it out, remount it and put it back in again. Just cutting through the putty here. You don't get this type of glazing on the more modern greenhouses. It really is a pain. Before anyone writes in the comments, why aren't you using gloves? I have used gloves in the past, plenty of times. Providing you're not dealing with a freshly cut edge, the glass is not too bad to grip, providing you remember that it is a sharp piece of glass. What I found with gloves is they make you so clumsy that accidents, slips, that sort of thing are far more likely to happen. So although I've got a pair of gloves, I usually just carry a bit of cloth with me, and if I have to grip a cut edge, I just use that to lift the glass. There we go, let's pop that one back in. So here we are, that was a good use I think of a wet day in January. Let's have a look at the greenhouses now. Yep, nice and sparkly, ready to go. I'm nicely on top of the summer season, so despite the fact I got wet doing it, it was definitely worth doing. Everything's spot on. Bed's now pretty much ready to plant out. In this greenhouse here, the big one, I'm going to be planting in this bed here in a few days' time some first early potatoes. I'll get the earliest crop in I can, maybe end of April, certainly by the beginning of May. I'll have some lovely early spuds. And the reason why I'm so desperate to get things moving is because if we go in the agriculture shed, it's getting a bit dire in the potato department. This bag here is actually the last of my spuds from last summer. I didn't quite get my quantities right, but I've just got a precious few Sarpomyras which I'm eking out, but I might shock horror. I might have to go and buy potatoes. Anyway, here are my ones ready to be planted. They're just chitting away, and sooner they go in the ground the better. So, final job whilst I'm in the greenhouse this afternoon. I've got an hour left. I'm just going to do something I've been promising myself I'd do for a while, just to extend this soil bed here. I put these beds in as a bit of an experiment when I first erected the greenhouse, because I figured out that a greenhouse this size I'd be spending an absolute fortune buying potting compost. So I thought, well, I'll just put a mixture of garden soil and garden compost in and see how things grow. And they grew very well. I really didn't need potting compost at all, it's turned out. I can do everything I want to do in soil. So I'm going to extend this bed here, which is just 2/3 of the length of the greenhouse, to go right to the end. I have been growing things here, some things in pots. Last year I pulled this membrane back and actually grew direct in this soil on the ground here, and that worked quite well. But I'm going to build a proper raised bed now. You get better drainage with raised beds, that's one reason to do it. So I'm just going to bot along here. So there we go, all done. That may not look much, but I'll get an extra couple of tomatoes in here, and that's quite a lot of food.